at ya. At ya. Tell you what's master coming at ya.
Hello and welcome to Cut the Bull. I am Charles Love, alongside my co-hosts Christy Kelly, Wilfred Reilly, and Brooks is somewhere in the abyss. Hopefully he's having technical difficulties, but at some point he should be joining us. We are, as you can see, sans guests, so we are just going to rapid fire, not so rapid, but fire on all cylinders as we talk about the topics of the day, current events, things on social media and the news, and whatever's irking us at this point. I guess we should start with Iran because this is the first time we've talked about this, didn't have a guest since the war started, and we are booking someone to talk about that. We had to reschedule some stuff. So let's start there. So we're at war, ladies and gentlemen, lady and gentleman. What are your overall general thoughts on the war, Will?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously when the USA is at war, I cheer for the USA. That's my position right now. I hope America, Israel, the rest of our allies kick Persia's ass. But I do have some practical questions about how we got involved in the conflict and what the goals of the conflict are. I mean, Iran and Israel have been slapboxing with one another, honors on both sides, as everyone who would watch a pod like this knows for a year plus. Israel apparently wanted to launch deep strikes into Iran. This follows the USA basically taking out Iran's nuclear warfare capability, which is our main beef with Iran. And as far as I understood, almost our only beef with Iran. And I mean, I kind of get the feeling Bibi Netanyahu has been approaching President Trump and saying, well, why don't you participate in this? We're very close allies together. We owe one another. People like Tucker Carlson, Jared Kushner, who've been in that intimate circle, have basically said this is what happened. So after Iran took a shot at Israel, Israel hit back. We began to participate along with Israel in a series of strikes on Iran. Like either of you guys might correct that, but that's my understanding. And Iran kind of got irritated and went ballistic, no pun intended. But I mean, they started striking all of the bases for the USA and our allied powers in all of the surrounding countries, which is how this became this sort of global conflict. I mean, they've hit the UAE, they've hit Yemen, they've hit apparently Dubai. I mean, they're hitting sort of mega cities with weapons, with suicide drones. Obviously, Israel, the USA are striking back, so we're dropping ordnance in Tehran. I think we're going to win the war. It's not going to be especially costly. I mean, even Iran has lost a total of about 2,000 people, and that includes civilians, that includes air guards, so on. We've lost, as I understand, 14, and honor to those troops. So the question is just really, if we come to some kind of negotiated conclusion, what happens then? There are two real questions. The real question sort of is the government of Iran going to be toppled? I think that's what President Trump might want to get out of this, and then I'm going to shut up. I mean, we saw the street revolution in Iran. We saw these feminist protesters and all these sort of beautiful young people. I mean, their youth wrestling champion was just hanged by the regime. They were fighting the soldiers almost equally. The standard estimate's 30,000 dead. So I think there was a lot of talk in kind of conservative, almost Bush type circles about this idea that if we win and we helped him out, the government might then break, the government might fall. But I don't really think we've seen a lot of signs of that. I mean, the leader right now, my understanding is he's the son of the old Ayatollah, and he's pretty well guarded right now. We haven't been able to get to him. So
Wait, has he even shown his face yet? Because the last that I've seen, nobody's actually seen him, or has that changed?
well, he and Netanyahu are both pretty. It must suck to walk around with the death mark openly on you. So I mean, people are asking whether Bibi Netanyahu's dead. No, he's in a bunker somewhere, and I'm sure the Iranian top man is as well.
No, he
You
did a
would
press conference today. Bibi did.
Bibi or the Iranian.
Bibi did a press conference, and he started by "I'm alive."
He's
He
a
did a press
bold man.
conference.
Yeah, I mean, they better have checked for snipers before he got up there and said, "I live." But anyway, but yeah. So the question is, will something practical happen? I think we had this idea that the street revolution might take out the government. I don't know if that's going to occur. if
That'll
you
take a
watch
while.
Fox, there are a lot of things that they say we want to get out of this, like destruction of mid-range missile capability. I don't know if that's going to happen. Again, I cheer for the USA when we're at war. Hopefully, we'll achieve a couple aims, declare victory, and leave.
Christy, as the resident Republican, what are your thoughts?
Yeah,
Trump can do no wrong, all is great. Yeah.
unfortunately, it looks like the government is going to be more of the same. And if that's the case, I'm afraid that that's going to tarnish the success that we've had there by destroying and losing very few troops. I think if the government doesn't turn over and doesn't end up being at least better than the last, and with the guys, the former leader's son taking over, it looks like it's just going to be more of the same. Um, I
Oh, wait,
just
wait, excuse me. So when you say more of the same, you just mean there.
there,
The
yes,
new government. Okay.
the new government. I've been annoyed because well, technically we're not at war. It's a conflict, right? Because Congress, hasn't technically declared a war. But I've been annoyed because how much money did we give Ukraine? Like, who knows? We just opened up the bank and we just, cashed them out. And now Congress is not going to want to fund, this conflict. And our government is shut down. TSA agents are, you
Our
know,
government is not shut down.
it's a partial shutdown.
They just refusing to pay certain people because they're crazy.
And you got to pay these people. I mean, how many times have we been attacked and it's been at the airport? Like you got to pay Department of Homeland Security when it's in the middle of a war. I think that
Conflict.
the coverage has been horrible, and I don't think it's been this bad during the initial conflict. Usually we kind of have that rally around the flag, moment during an initial attack. And I think from day one, the media has just been asking one unrealistic, questions. Some questions they can't answer right now because of security reasons. Them also saying that Trump and the administration doesn't know what they're doing, but we've lost very few lives and we've destroyed, how many people did we destroy? Their top people. So them just saying like he doesn't know what he's doing, they don't have any direction, they're not doing a good, that just seems like it's just partisan nonsense. And because it's Trump. And again, last comment, Fetterman being the voice of reason in the Democratic Party on this issue and on the Homeland Security issue is just blowing my mind.
Hmm. Um, I I don't know. I'm a little confused in the sense that, I mean, I get what you're saying as far as the coverage, but in their defense, they can't have you're used to the whole, rally around the flag at first and then start to pick apart the issue. But they don't have any flags yet. They burned them all. So since you burned the flags, you have nothing to rally around. Um, yeah, they're kind of lost. I mean, if they are against everything Trump does, they're going to continue to be that way. But that doesn't mean they're necessarily wrong about everything. I don't know how much, I won't say no stock, but how much stock I put into he's doing it solely because Bibi and Israel told him to. But, we got some explaining to do. You listen to what he's saying, like the reason when people ask simply just, why are we there, Mr. President, boss man, just tell us why. Well, nuclear weapons. I thought you said you totally obliterated them, their whole program. They can't build it together for years. So what would you be going after? The mid-range stuff, that's going to take too long. I don't think that, but that's not what he's saying. So there's that. Then he mentioned, threw out some, all right, fine, hostages. They just killing his people. Well, he's been killing his people for a while. Why now? Why did you strike now? He killed 20,000 people in 2 months and you did nothing. Why now? Well, it's because of, he keeps coming up with all these different reasons. And the oil thing, they're going to always say oil, but because whether that's the reason or not, he's going to be, while I'm here, I might as well grab me a couple barrels. So I think the messaging was kind of all over the place, even though, like you say, the coverage was uneven and unfair. But I mean, they could have done a better job of managing their portion. Um, but now that we're there, none of that really matters. The key is, it is good that so far there have been very little lives lost, and that's why, amongst independents and conservatives, he's still kind of holding support. But the longer it goes, you start to lose it, and the people get hurt and injured, that becomes a problem. We don't want troops killed or hurt, and we don't want to be there forever. So if this is 6 weeks later and it's still a problem, I think some of the support will start to wane. But I mean, as long as you're in and out and not costing a lot of lives, I don't think people are going to really, the average people and the people who are somewhat supportive of the party and the president aren't going to spend too much time wondering why.
Yeah, I mean, just as a quick comment, I mean, so first of all, obviously, like most people on our side, and like Christy teases me and you about being kind of independent, not down the line GOP, but like most people that like America, let's just say that would have a flag on their house. I mean, your focus is, how are our boys doing? Are we taking a lot of losses? Are we beating their side? The answer is clearly yeah. I mean, so there's a lot of this weird pro-Iran talk on socials. And it's a mix of like the left and the hard right. Like guys like Jackson Hinkle and Nick Fuentes and all these people are posting these graphics of the Zagros Mountains and saying like there's no way we could take out this enemy. Like it's deeply bizarre. But I mean, in fact, if you look at casualty totals of Iran's top 85 people, that's all I'm really aware of, even in my job. I mean, we've killed about 40. They haven't done anything equivalent to Israel or to the USA. I mean, they've definitely struck back effectively, but they're killing like line troop soldiers. Not that those don't matter, but I mean, we're winning the war. It's just a question of yeah, like we've all said, what's the goal? I think the worry everyone has is that this is just going to be the same thing Bush and Obama did, like nation building, where
Right.
if the Iranian people and everyone on the right is worried about that. That's just the obvious thing. Like if the Iranian people don't rise up and take out the Ayatollah after months of us talking about how we can't live with the Ayatollah, are we going to launch some kind of boots on the ground strike, probably with the Brits and the Israelis, where we wind up being in Iran for 10 more years? And like just on the record, I would totally oppose that. I think most people would. Like Brooks, I mean, he's not here, but one of our buddies and a co-host of this show fought in Iraq, fought in Afghanistan. As the insurgency began, they couldn't stand against our first wave, but I mean, we lost tens of thousands of people. It cost hundreds of billions of dollars. So that's what people are worried about. That's why there's kind of a bad taste as the first like glorious victory stuff happens. And last line, but you've got to go one of two ways. Either you mind your own business as a country, you defend yourself, you keep most of your treaties, but you do your own country thing, or you actually take empire seriously. Like there's an argument that the USA could and should conquer Canada, Mexico, Cuba, save Britain from Islamic immigration. Afghanistan should be a state where women can vote. Iraq, we should be there. We should have that oil. But we're not going to do that for a whole bunch of moral reasons. And if we're not, then there's no real reason to fight those wars. There's no reason to free Iraq
Oh.
and give it back to, oh, Christy?
Well, Trump has been saying that he was like, I think I could take Cuba. Did you hear him when he said that? I was just like, oh my goodness, it was the craziest statement the way he said it.
I don't,
So I
I don't
think that is on his radar.
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, so again, I think there are two or three approaches here. And Christy, I think you are more, and this is a compliment, but more conventionally moral than like me or Brooks, probably maybe Charles. I don't know. I don't know Charles's inner world, other buddies. But like if you move away from conventional morality in politics and you do realpolitik, I think it really is either you mind your own business, you try to be friendly as much as possible, you fight brutally in defense, but as little as possible, one, or two, like if you're provoked into a war, you value your own people a lot more than, these enemy scum. And when you win the war, you take the land, you take the resources and so on that you won. So it's really hard to argue for fighting these brutal wars against like these skilled Arab and East Asian armies and then like giving the land back. There's not really an upside to that I see.
I am definitely more Trump 1.0, America first, stay out of conflict, stay out of wars. And if he sends ground troops in or if he tries to take Cuba, I think that's kind of where I get off the Trump train.
Okay. So that
Uh,
that actually, for a lot of the people watching us, and I think especially for a lot of kind of high IQ Republicans, that's a really interesting point because that is a line, right? Like Trump came out and said his whole appeal was what brought Ann Coulter into the fold. Like, I'm going to build a wall. I'm going to stop these wars. I'm going to cut this budget. And I think that's one side of MAGA, and that's one side of the GOP, because MAGA is most of the real GOP by this point. And the other side seems to be people that like the cult of the personality, like some of the almost alt-right stuff, like the big waving flags, like it that he took a shot and came back. And I think a lot of those people would probably keep running with Trump, even if he did the exact opposite of what he originally said. And I tend to agree, Christy. Yeah, no, I don't mind the idea of conquering the world, but like if you are a libertarian and the president starts saying, I'm going to conquer the world, ethically, you should probably have some questions about that. What do you think, Big Chuck?
No, I agree. I just wanted to. Only thing I want to say is you're gonna think I'm making this up. I promise I'm not. Today, not 3 hours ago, my son said, "Why don't we just take Canada? Aren't they weakening us? We should take it there."
And tell the viewers how old your son is, because that's kind of amazing.
37. No, he's 10.
37.
Who are you
He said,
raising over there? Who
he
are
said,
you raising?
does Canada have it was
Man,
weird because it's like, does Canada have a really strong army? Is it stronger than ours? Like, no, it's like, why don't we just take it? It's supposed to be. Why they get to have their own little border out there? Why don't we just have, I
this
really
is
feel
the
all North
law of the
America should just be
jungle,
America. America's already there. All we got to
frozen
do is
as
scratch out the
true as the
North.
Are
sky.
you raising a little bully? Is he taking like little kids' lunch money too at school?
I don't control his mind. That's the mind of, what do you want me to? So the other topic I want to talk about is we got good news for the people who care about social justice. Me Too is not dead. And in fact, you don't even have to be alive for it to come for you. Will, tell the people what's going on with our good old buddy, Cesar Chavez.
Cesar Chavez, the man who really took the union movement into the Southwest, the Chicano icon. They have statues of him in every middle
Oh,
class Latino
eight
community.
holidays.
Yeah, I mean it's no es solo uno when it comes to these statues. I mean it's like almost MLK to working class Hispanics. He's the guy who unionized the legal migrant workers in the Southwest, blah, blah, blah. He's been accused of a whole series of sexual offenses. Apparently, someone came forward and accused him of basically just rape. Someone else said that when she was very young, and I mean, this would qualify as sexual violence as well under modern law, and it should. But when she was a young woman or young girl, she's 13, 14, she was invited to have sex with Chavez. He asked her this, she did. I think this same person said that she had 2 kids with Cesar Chavez. I don't know the exact age range there. But as we're talking about like these idiotic Me Too cases today, I mean, like there's another situation in the news where a guy who was a college professor kissed his grad school TA, and she freaked out, got frantic, said it changed her career path. And men and women are kind of going back and forth about this one, right? But as this happened, I mean, we're finding out that Cesar Chavez very likely did things that today would be considered very serious sex crimes. I think there's another woman, Dolores Huerta. I may be confusing these two, but that said that she was a mistress of Chavez. They started having sex before she was 18. I think she also got pregnant. And I'm not going to make any Catholic or Hispanic or anything else jokes here, but like she also had a couple kids with him. And then later had an affair with his brother, had a couple kids with his brother. So it's just as with Jefferson, with MLK, we're finding out these kind of sketchy details of the man's personal life. And there's really a lot that goes into this. And then Charles is off screen right now, so I'm going to say this and then flip the question to the panel. But one, I mean, this gets into just differing norms at different times. But also, two, this gets into just, by any standard, many people that are considered heroes have done things that are just wrong by most people's standards. Sounds like Caesar did. There's more stuff like how much do you believe claims that are made? And I think this might be more for the men 40 years after the apparent fact. But anyway, the issue is, are we now, after we were pressured for all these years to tear down the statues of Lee, but then Grant, then Washington, Jefferson, are we now going to face these same accusations about Martin Luther King, what he supposedly did, John F. Kennedy, we know was a dog. I mean, Cesar Chavez, is this going to be, are there any statues that we can keep up? And this would apply to the feminists as well, where, I mean, who was it? Susan B. Anthony was a eugenicist. Anyway, but so Christy Kelly,
Margaret
you are a
Sanger.
member of the female sex. What do you think about this? The Cesar Chavez accusations, very serious. Should we take down all of Los Monumentos?
I mean, I think that we don't have a say in it because this is the left's hero and they're very quick to take it down. So if they want to castrate their own person and take down the statutes, whatever. But the problem that I despise these old Me Too cases. I despise them because the guy is dead. They're so old. Let me read what Miss Herta said. She said, I am nearly 96 years old, and for the last 60 years have kept a secret because I believe that exposing the truth would hurt the farm worker movement I have spent my entire life fighting for. So why now? Why now? You're 96, you're almost gone. Why now? And I think the thing that really irritates me about this is no way were there not whispers of this man's character. No way did people not know who this man was and what he had did. So to pretend all of a sudden, oh, we didn't know. So now we got to cover our butts and erase him. It just seems disingenuous.
Yeah, if I can make one very quick addition there, there's a predatory element to a lot of this, right? So, like with the professor who apparently was hooking up with his TA, and like whether or not they stopped at kissing on 2 dates or whatever, that's between them. But I noticed that he's running for Congress right now. And I mean, I noticed that that story was dropped by a top female staffer for the rival campaign. So, I mean, does this woman really feel horrified by this, right? Or is there a chance to help a female ally and probably friend over the finish line? And as I recall, the woman who was racing him, Akat Abugzala, lost by a couple points, like final day. So that's when you see a lot of this. And with Cesar Chavez, I would suspect that a big part of this is because he's awkward for the Hispanic left right now because he opposed illegal immigration
Hated it.
extremely aggressively. Yeah, like I mean, he would
Turn
take
them in.
yeah, but like he would take
Today
his
he'd
farm
be working
workers.
for ICE.
Yeah, but like he would have guys like big farmers at the border with axe handles. Like you're not coming here. Like we are the American farmers and farm workers. It doesn't matter that half these guys are Spanish. Like you guys aren't entering here. So I think that as people realize that more and more, that's why you're seeing this attack now. Huerta is famously in favor of mass, quote unquote, undocumented immigration. But Charles, it seems like you were obviously coming in there.
Yeah, because I've been always been the nice one. Christy always attacks me for not being a Republican, attacks me for support, defending pedophiles, attacks me, and I just sit here and take it. But now, no more. Where do you get off, Christy, telling us it's not our fight because of the left nonsense? It is our fight because it's a man who cannot defend himself when somebody says 62 years ago he did X. I don't know if he did it. I'm not defending the guy, but I'm defending the fact that I can't defend myself if somebody walked up to me and said in 1987, Charles did this, give him 20 years and destroy his career and his life. I'm supposed to know where I was on the evening of Tuesday, June 13th, 40 years ago. That's insane. I I don't know about believing all women, but I think everybody's accusation should be heard. I think if someone's found guilty, they should be, I'm with Will. We're like, well, we should probably, once they get convicted, we should probably kill them, or we should do all that. We can do all that stuff. But the trade-off is if you are quiet for X amount of time, you have to stay quiet. If you were able to bite down on that and suck it up for 30 years, you can do it for five more. She'll be dead in five. We agree she'll be dead in five. Just suck it up, take it to the grave. And the thing that keeps it consistent is you said he's a man on the left. I mean, he did hate illegal immigration, but he was basically a communist, right? I am not. I loathe communists. But I say the same thing about his case that I said about Brett Kavanaugh on the right. You don't get to say that I went to a party when he was a sophomore in high school and he tried to throw me on the bed and I ran away. And when we all know if they had called the police that day, that year, nothing would have happened because he didn't rape her, he didn't touch her, he pushed her on the bed at the party, right? Not condoning it, but it's not something he would have gone to jail with that day. Now she comes up 35 years later and says he shouldn't, we don't, and the people tried to argue, well, if you're trying to put somebody on the judge, you need to know their character. But he wasn't. So he wasn't on the Supreme Court. So she didn't want him to get that high, but like a federal court was okay. Circuit court's cool. I mean, come on. And this is the same thing, right? So, and to Will's point, he maybe it's because of the ICE fight now, but he had all these schools, the statues, the state holidays, all this stuff. They knew he was against illegal immigration, right? Trump was talking about building a wall the first term. They could have canceled him then. So if that's the reason they're going after him, it's just somebody just got all pissy and just decided whatever. And it's not just that somebody came out. It's a New York Times long story about all the bodies. And oh, they're not going to be mad enough some 96-year-old woman say 40 years ago. Let's say there were also some 12-year-olds. And then, I mean, he's still dead. And he's been dead. Forget about he didn't just die. He's been dead for over 30 years. He's got a presidential medal of honor. Just let it go. Right? I just don't understand it. And I think it is our fight, though, because we keep allowing them to dig up, bones, and then they benefit from it. Whether it's not, if he can't go to jail, but she can get a book deal, right? She can get some money. You can do all this other stuff. If you keep, giving people all these benefits from doing this stuff, they'll continue to do it. So no, we need to stop this madness.
I had a quick question. Have we ever seen something move this fast? I feel like the New York Times story came out, and before the end of the day, people were like, "Oh, we're canceling the holiday." Have we
The
ever
Bachelorette
seen?
being canceled, but that's
Well, we have seen a couple things like this, like even the attacks on, as coming as a legal guy, even the attacks on Kavanaugh and Clarence
yeah,
Thomas moved it
yeah.
very much this pace. Where you like with Kavanaugh, the first girl that came out, I actually tend to believe her because of what Charles said. I mean, it's the kind of awkward, ugly thing that could happen at a high school party. Like she agrees to go upstairs with him. He kisses her too aggressively. None of these people know what they're doing. They're like 15. It probably sucks. She tries to break loose. He pulls her in. She like slaps him. And then his boy walks in. She walks out. The two start wrestling. Like it's an embarrassing story. Her brother would have punched him in the face if he'd heard about it. But it's not something that would certainly at that time have devastated the rest of his life, if we're being honest. Like that story came out, and then it was immediately followed by other stories that were complete bullshit that opponents of Kavanaugh obviously had on deck. Like, I don't know how much you guys remember that, but Kavanaugh was accused of like fighting people on boats and then trying to rape their wives. Like, there was an entire series of stories about like physical brawling, sexual aggression. None of it, other than the first piece, was ever confirmed. Someone in the audience might correct me, but that is correct, pretty much. So, like, very often when this happens, it's like Rosa Parks back in the day. It's not coincidentally someone sits down. There's a drawn up, prepared battle plan, and then you go in and see how the battle plan works. And that's what's happening to Chavez. And I mean, for me, the real question is what a couple of you guys have brought up. Like, I frankly agree with Charles. I mean, I have like a male, et cetera, bias, but are we going to do this to everybody 50 years later? Like, I mean, Thomas Jefferson, I mean, there's obviously already been an attempt to redefine the fact that he allegedly had a mistress, quote unquote, 200 years ago as he's an interracial rapist. I don't even know whether or not that story is true, but this could progress on through everybody else. Like Malcolm X used to be a pimp. Like, is every single person going to face this? Are the only statues going to be like faceless, androgynous, lesbian couples? I mean, and I don't think that's the path to go. Brooks Crenshaw, what do you think?
I would have torn Chavez's commie statues down decades ago. What the fuck do I care if they do it today?
Fair enough.
Thank you.
But for different reasons, though, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so like I think as the MLK files come out, we're going to see a lot of that stuff as well. And it's like, let the left hold itself to its own standard and see how that works. I'm for keeping the statues of the founders up. I'm for keeping the statues of non-communist American history contributors up, and
The
I will
white
push.
men.
I will
You
push
want
for
the
that.
statues of white men to stay up.
I mean, uh, majority. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just the demography of the country through history. That's that's math. I got nothing for you other than math there.
Who
But
invented shit?
well, I mean, historically, yeah, from a majority standpoint, but like all races, colors, and creeds, but like American contributors. Um, yeah, I will push for that. I will not really push to keep commies in the public square.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well said.
Where do we go now, Will? Let me spin the wheel. Oh, I
Okay.
sent you all this one a couple of days ago, and I know I'm gonna get in trouble for it, but I don't care. Well, since I sent it, so what I did, I'm gonna be a little mean here, people. So I was watching something, some video popped up, all the crap that we get on our phones, and it was I guess that how the people are. Well, Will would know because he said he had never heard of these people before, but how everybody was so obsessed with Caitlin Clark and the Angel Reese and their beef. So I guess they're playing on the USA team, and Caitlyn gets fouled, and Angel Reese helps her up, and they're like, "Oh, look, they made up." And what I saw in it, and I sent it to you all, and I said, "Oh my God, there's no one in the stands." Next day, WNBA got their revenue sharing, so now they're going to get the average salary is going to be 5 times what it was before. They're going to get all this money and all that stuff. That's great if they can make it, but is it wrong for me? I know it is, but I'm saying anyway. Is it me? Yes, I know it is. To look at the WNBA, and maybe before they were kind of like, feeding off of the NBA, but now they're charging money for, franchising and getting new teams. So they're making some money. So if you got the revenue, you should share it. But if there's, help me out with the math here, Will. If there's X minus 1 million people in the stands, right? And you divide that by the number of layups missed, right?
Getting some complex stats going on here.
I mean, I've
Break out the
watched,
data.
unlike Will, I've watched a little WNBA, and
It's painful.
they're bad. Okay, here's the thing. They're really like one of my favorite players watching to play when I was little was Reggie Miller's sister. Reggie Miller's sister could ball, right? Pat Head could ball. I mean, there were some girls who could play. But the difference between the NBA and the WNBA is if you take out the really good players in the NBA, the rest of the players can still basically beat everybody else, even the guy balling on your court down the street. That NBA, remember who's the guy? You all would know. There was an NBA player who was kind of like power forward center, so it's not like he was a ball handler. And it was a running joke of how bad he was. So he made a video where he just challenged people to play, and he basically beat everybody who played him. You remember who
I think,
that was?
I think that was either Dickie Simpkins or Brian Scalabrine.
Licky Dicky. No, because it was white. Yeah, it might have been Scalabrine. It wasn't Dickie Simpkins. But the problem with the WNBA is outside of the top players, they're horrible. Horrible. I mean, they can't hit layups. They can't. I mean, Reese is rebounding her own. She's averaging 60 rebounds a game because she missed 20 layups. It's just bad. So we're gonna pay them people $1 million because the revenue's there, that's fine. But for them to be walking around with pay us what our worth shirts, what you worth is, minimum wage plus $5 an hour.
You have to cut them a check. Like they're losing money, and not
But
to
not
mention
now that they got franchises because they're charging people 50 million to open another horrible franchise with nobody in the set. So that's gonna last for a while.
yeah, it's going to last
Fake money, but it's there.
until it's gone. I mean, the fact that there are JV boys teams out there that could beat these teams is one point, right? I mean
But they're beating the
that's
soccer team and the tennis players and everybody else.
I mean, and that's not really where the money that really doesn't have as much to do with the money as
Right.
the draw, right? Because like Ronda Rousey, I'll watch her fight. Like she was insanely popular. And
Right.
she actually made a comment on this. It's like, Dana White doesn't give me millions of dollars because he's doing something solid for the ladies, right? I bring in the
Right.
money and I get my cut. And the
Right.
same goes for all the female fighters, Rose Namajunas. Um, and the entertainment value is there, and they're putting asses in the seats. So any, workaround of, some franchise deal where people, pay guilt money because these players are entitled to NBA level salaries is short-term Rudy Poot.
Good. I mean, like, to me, the only thing that really matters is whether the WNBA franchises are making money. So, like, I mean, this panel is three-fourths male, as I'm sure Christy's aware. I think we all used to be athletes. So, like, there's a level of trash talking, but in terms of like Ronda Rousey's comment, like the top 5% of men at least could probably beat Rousey in a fight if it goes to the ground. But Ronda Rousey is smaller. She's an extremely skilled fighter. She's pretty to look at. Like, there are all kind of reasons why I would watch a Ronda Rousey fight. So the main thing is just like, does Ronda Rousey bring in revenue to UFC? You also like to see fighters in different categories, right? Like, I mean, I sometimes watch high school boys basketball. And honestly, I mean, there are guys in the gym at KSU that got cut from like a D2 team that are like 26 that could beat anyone on the court in a typical high school game. But it's not the same thing. You want to see if your town's young men can beat the next town's young men. And I don't have a problem with the women's game along the same lines. There are some, I mean, like, Caitlin Clark is not a bad basketball player. So, like, I mean, I'd watch a Caitlin Clark game. But the hard reality with the WNBA, though, this isn't going to, like, turn into a long, like, simp routine, is that they don't make any money. Like, they're currently being kept afloat by the NBA. The one time I tried to look at this for Spiked, I think the average franchise loses like 80 million. It's hard to find. Like, there are all kinds of crazy accounting tricks that they use. So, yeah, I mean, pay us like you owe us for every year that you hosed us, like the Jay-Z kind of approach to this. Maybe that's a little awkward in context, but it's a famous line about hip hop. I don't really think that makes sense. It will say, though, like, the WNBA salary increases only to, it's either 300,000 or 210,000. So, like, you can say, like, they don't deserve it. But in terms of, like, athletes getting crazy amounts of money, that is still a drop in the bucket. I mean, like,
I don't care. I don't care if WNBA players are making more than the men, provided that the market is there. Like, that's the issue. It's your market sucks, and you have this entitlement thing. It's those two things combined that make them so hateable.
Yeah, I think at some point the NBA is going to stop subsidizing them. It's going to make them stand on their own 2 feet. And if they don't stop being entitled and just insufferable with all of the horrible, just woke politics, then they're going to fail and go bankrupt. And unfortunately, it's the young women who want to play ball and want to, that won't have that market to go to that's going to suffer. Last comment about this, because I really hate the WNBA, and I'm a sports girl. Like, I love sports, but I will not watch WNBA.
Why, Christy?
Why do you
Please tell
hate
me
the
why.
WNBA?
My
I just wonder
husband
why.
loves it. Like, he's probably, he watches it all the time. And that's when I got to go do something else.
Why?
I
What do
just
you have against it?
um
Is it
just
that it's the layups? Is it the layups? Because the layups are bad.
I'm a big personality person, right? So
Oh, they got
I for
personalities.
basketball, right? So I'll
Uh-huh.
watch for, the personalities and the
Mhm.
players and the storylines. And yeah, I
Mhm.
like the sport too, but for basketball, it's really, it's about the personalities and the entertainment value. They need more, is it Sophie Cunningham? The
Yeah,
cute
yeah.
blonde girl. They need more
Yeah,
Sophies and less, of the other
of the
ones that are,
blacks,
no, just the more rough looking
Lesbians.
girls. They
the
need,
lesbians.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was trying
Well,
to not get on that list y'all
it's
on.
actually,
But
though,
yeah.
not to bust in, this actually is an extremely important point. Like, to be woke, the WNBA like explicitly cuts out what their marketing would be, which is like, not only like, we could play at least D2 ball as men, but like, we are pretty. This is a bunch of like attractive, normal women that are out here hooping. Don't you want to watch? Don't you want to show your daughter these normal women killing it? Like, almost everything they do, like the crazy pride tie-ins where like dozens of players in a row say things like, I'm proud to be a butch lesbian. I'm exaggerating that like 5%, but that's the thing they did. Like, the straight abuse you would take as an attractive or a white player in the WNBA. And we've all seen it. Like, these wild fouls that are like Bill Laimbeer, Michael Jordan level. The almost the focus on being unattractive, which Sophie Cunningham's talked about. Like that is an extremely bad marketing move for a women's league. And like the LPGA, successful women's leagues, they don't quote unquote hoe anyone out, but they say there's nothing wrong being pretty, being feminine, wearing $300 Ralph Lauren golf gear, and that brings people out. Saying the exact opposite, like if someone looks attractive, punch them in the face. I don't see that as the best approach,
Yeah.
True, true.
certainly for the ladies.
Christy, I have a question for you. Um, it seems so obvious to me the dynamics, how we got here, and if you had to pick one, who the villain is. So explain to me how your party is going to screw up the DHS non-funding response. I mean, am I right that it's clear, as the non-partial guy, but if I'm a TSA agent and I'm not getting funded because the government's open, but you're not funding this department, but the only reason you're not funding it is because you want to change the funding for ICE, but ICE has already been funded in
Right.
a bill. So really you're fighting just like the last shutdown to undo a law that's already passed. It's pretty obvious who's doing that. How will your party screw that up?
Not how will they, how are they? They're currently screwing it up because they can't break their messaging is not cutting through to the average American. They
Hmm.
don't have a message that resonates with normal people and that they can explain what's going on. The thing with ICE, yes, ICE is already funded, but what's holding it up is they want them to take off their face masks. That's the
Hmm.
main sticking point right now that they're arguing about. So here
Hmm.
we have these poor TSA workers. They haven't got paid for 30 days. We know statistic wise, most Americans do not have 30 days worth of money saved up. So you're taking these poor workers who have to call out now and go do Lyft and Uber because they don't have money to pay rent because you don't want ICE agents wearing face masks, but your dumb people that are out here on the streets are doxing them, are going to their homes, are putting their lives at risk. That's the only reason they have to wear face masks. I think just not having we don't have a coordinated messaging, right? As Republicans, we need it here. We need that whole chat line that the Democrats have. Okay, what's the word of the day? And like ants, everybody needs to be saying the same thing because this
What?
has to break.
Why don't you
TS,
all spend the billions of dollars that Christy Nome spent on the slick videos and use some of that to market and make some commercials about it?
man, well, to pivot just real quick, and then I'll let you guys talk. They are going to miss Christy Gnomes because this Mark Wayne Mullen guy, like, he is not playing around. And I think he's the one that was like, hey, come at me, bro, in the middle of the hearing, was about to fight the guy. He's
Yeah.
a former MMA player.
It's the
They
one that
went
told Red Paul, I'm glad I can see why somebody beat you up. It's come up behind you and beat
and
you up.
didn't apologize. And in his confirmation
And when he
hearing,
asked him, you said it was good that my neighbor beat me up. He's like, well, you kind of suck.
Rand Paul sounded like the biggest like dweeb, like that whole
He said,
hearing.
look,
I
you
was,
don't like me and I don't like you. That's cool. And
well,
so
yeah,
your neighbor don't like you, obviously, because he kicks your ass. But what that got to do with me? What's
Republicans need to, everybody needs to say the same thing because something's going to have to break this next week. Either we're going to have to cave, but these TSA workers cannot continue to not get paid and these flights being canceled. It just,
Will and or Brooks, whoever wants to take this one, for some other reason, I don't know why, I apologize in advance, but I'm being the bad guy today. So I 100% agree with Christy and think these TSA agents need to be paid now. That said, I needed a long enough pause. That said, they had missed their first paycheck. I'm sorry, because this is people's money. I'm sorry, but help me out. Okay, I need one. Okay. Don't sound too callous. Okay, don't sound callous. Can you explain to me how they had missed their one paycheck? And I'm watching like their union rep on TV, and they're like, "How's this affecting you, your members?" And they're like, "Well, I have members who are being foreclosed on." They're like, members can't pay, they can't pay for daycare. They said they can't come to work because they can't do all these things. And I know, Christy, that people live paycheck to paycheck. They don't have a lot of money. A lot of people don't save. I get that. But it sounds like we lost all our hustle mentality too. Couldn't they just go to the daycare, drop the kid off? Like, you know, I work for TSA. You know, I'm getting all my money back. Shut up and take this kid. I'm going to work. Are they really getting foreclosed on by the time they get their first check? Or am I just being me?
Well, I mean, Brooks will probably have a longer answer, but first of all, as a union rep, your job is kind of to lie. I mean, you go toe to toe with the corporate boys every day. I mean, most of what you say isn't true. You know, a foreclosure in a typical state is going to take 6, 7 months when I think back to the law. So no,
In New
that's
York, you
probably
don't have, in California, you don't have to pay rent. Forget about owning, just don't pay the rent.
But you have
yeah.
to
I mean,
remember they were just shut down before. So maybe they never caught up.
yeah,
Why he gave them
maybe.
$10,000 bonuses?
Yeah,
They
they
got
also
back
they
pay,
got 10 to
overtime, and
12,000.
bonuses.
Another thing about this. So first of all, that's probably a lie. I'm not totally unsympathetic, but also TSA. So this is one of my things. Like all the airport stuff is just security theater. I mean, the average TSA agent is like a 24, 25-year-old black or blue hair city kid. That's a big reason they don't have a lot of money saved up. The 8 pairs of Jordans in the closet explains a lot of it. You know, like I actually have sometimes gotten pissed off during delayed flights and so on, and just asked people as they're like searching my shoes and so on, like, if I were a real terrorist, couldn't I just put a plastic knife in my ass? Just like sort of smart ass offhand remarks. And people that are like the old globe eagle anchor tattooed guy that actually knows what he's doing is like, yeah, a lot of this makes people feel better. And I don't really mean to make fun of anyone, but that's my impression of a lot of this. Like we have these webs of kind of faux security protection that are very easy to get through. I've always found them to be so. Just thinking back to some adventurous jobs, I would imagine anyone well trained would find them about twice as easy. You know, so um, it's a bunch of young people that don't necessarily know what they're doing and are probably not that great with money. Would be one answer if you're assuming there's any truth to that at all. But like, you know, having heard the things the Chicago unions have said in the past, you know, the head of the teachers union reporting in from Puerto Rico about how hard her life is and so on. I don't know. I don't know what the truth quotient there is.
Anything to add, Brooks?
I don't like the TSA. You know,
I thought he's making me look good today.
I don't. I wouldn't care if they didn't come to work. It's not that I don't want planes to be secure. It's just, you know, when somebody in the plane stands up and yells Allahu Akbar, I want 2 corn-fed whites and a brother to beat him to death in the aisle. And that's how I think Americans should handle security. I don't think blue hairs and you know, security washouts are of any effect.
Brooks is in rare form today.
Yes.
I had some technical difficulties getting on here, and I'm in a bit of a mood because of it. So yeah,
He's dropping bombs.
Yeah.
No one should work for free. No one should not get
I
missed
never
2
said they
paychecks.
should. I was clear, ladies and gentlemen. I was clear. I want them to get paid, but don't be coming to me and I'm like, man, I haven't got paid since 3 days ago, and so I can't. And now they putting me out on the street. No, you're not out on the street. You're not on. They're not
Yeah.
out on the street, Christy. That's all I'm saying. They're not.
Also, in actually hood cities, either for black or white people, like Atlanta or Portland, like no one is working for free, and that's why planes are delayed in certain places, right? Like TSA is down 70%, I think, in Portland right now, and that's just because people are like, okay, I'll come back to work when you start paying me again. So I mean, I assume there are a bunch of people that are driving for Uber or coaching youth sports or whatever. I mean, there are a lot of jobs you can pick up. So and that I think that's an understood reality. Police used to call it the blue flu. I mean, if they're,
Mhm.
you know, misscheduling of shifts and incompetent leadership and so on going on, and there's a problem with pay, you're not going to get a lot of officers for a period of time. It is what it is. I agree with Christy. They should get back to paying them. I'll actually one final line here. There's obviously a deeper issue, which is that our own government, not these low-level security guys, can't figure out how to do basic shit. So I mean that's the real issue here. Like the government really should be passing multiple one-page bills every day or at least every week that coherently fund programs in society where appropriations or authorizations are then used to take that money from some kind of lockbox and spend it on whatever we need. That's not what we do because the two parties can't get along. So all this stuff that we're talking about, like continuing appropriations, resolutions, and so on, I don't want to go into like a whole wonky thing, but this is something I consult on professionally. And it's just, we very often just pass the budget from 5 years ago just to keep things running because the two parties can't agree to do anything else. And I mean, the elephant, the giant elephant in the room is that we're $38 trillion in debt. So at some point we're gonna end up doing what Greece or France did, right? Where we're gonna have to cut, I would cut welfare, which I define broadly 100%, but even military, R&D, that kind of stuff. I mean, they're gonna have to be 20, 30% cuts there. We're gonna have to get rid of that albatross around our neck and start pushing back on that, cutting 38 trillion down. So right now we're at the point where we literally can't build and pave the roads. If you listen to conservative media today where they're talking about Gavin Newsom's bridge in California, he tried to build a bridge over a highway so
a
that
cougar bridge.
yeah, I mean the jokes are funny. You know, they kept talking about there were a lot of cougars in this district around suburban San Jose or whatever, and I bet there are. But like they were trying to build this bridge over a busy road so deer and such could travel in safety. It's $100 million project. I haven't had a blue collar job for a while, but I would assume normally it's take 16 months to do.
It'll
It's
take
been
50.
years.
It'll take 50 years.
Yeah, but that's what they're saying. Like it's been years, nothing's been done. The bridge is just sitting there. They're like trees sitting by the bridge. They're supposed to be planted on the bridge. I mean, it's an illustration of what decadence actually means, which is like decaying away from what your father used to be able to do, or your mother.
Gavin Newsom said the only reason it's over budget is because of Trump's tariffs.
Get out of here. I mean, haven't they been building this since before Trump was president? Like you keep seeing these stories out of California where like they built that bus station and they were gathered around like it was the Taj Mahal because they'd actually coherently completed a project. Like Google, like Sunrise bus stop built, or the people on Twitter were going crazy about it. But it's a nice blue sign and there's a little glass stop behind it, and all these officials taking their pictures. At some point, like you have to be able to get rid of whatever it is, like the Native Lands Reclamation Act, all the environmental bullshit, whatever, the DEI stuff, whatever's stopping you from building bus stops, you can't have in a functional society.
Well, speaking of that, government and efficiency, you wanted to talk a bit about fraud, some new fraud beyond Minneapolis, I guess, right?
If you're talking about me, yeah, I'll actually kick this out to the panel and see what people think. But yeah, the boy Nick Shirley, who some of us have talked to, who we actually should consider having on as a guest. I think he'd do it. He does a lot of media. But he became famous, funny young guy, used to hoop, Mormon guy. He went to Minneapolis with an older friend, someone he'd contacted out there. You could tell had been in the trenches trying to dig up this stuff for a while, just started being ignored. But he and his buddy went to these Somali community businesses in Minneapolis that were just transparently, hilariously fraudulent. And this went wildly viral. One of them was a school called the Quality Learning Center, except they spelled it Leering Center, and there weren't any kids, no kids in the MF. So like these two guys pull up at like 2:30 in the playground. Where are the children? It's dead empty. There's one guy outside wearing like Gucci glasses who tells him to go away. It's very, very funny. But he's now taken this out to California, and his most recent video is him going into this motel and just looking around. And at first, it just looks like kind of a hot sheets motel. It's like individual rooms, no suites. But he goes to the door and he films 15 doors, and each door is labeled as a high-end medical business, like, you know, Arja Gupta Hospice, which is actually one of the businesses. So each motel room is the technical mailing location of a hospice business that cares for allegedly 100 seniors. Now, I know hospice work is done at home, but still, business that size, you'd have secretaries, you'd have an office. And he just walks around the entire motel, and there are 30 or 40 of these businesses based in the motel. And in the parking lot of the motel, and you can find this video online, Nick Shirley Hospice, parking lot of the motel, there are all these crazy cars. You had this year's Cybertruck, brand new BMWs, which I know cost 150,000 because I've looked at them, couldn't afford them at all. Mercedes Benzes, like with license plates that say like his and hers parked next to each other, blah, blah. I'm going to shut up. But like, so he goes into this, and his question at the end of the video is, how much of this type of fraud is there? Like, I know we criticize welfare, so on, and we should do that. But when we talk about Social Security, this kind of thing, we tend to assume we're just helping out our seniors, our veterans. How much of it is actually being billed to horse shit like this? You know, cut camera clips.
Lots.
Yeah. So what do you guys think? Christy Kelly, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I have a couple of thoughts. First of all, I didn't like the way when he came out with his Minnesota thing, how immediately they tried to castrate him as being like, oh, this young third-rate journalist, instead of actually looking at what was presented and looking at the fraud. Now, we know that they already knew it and they're trying to covering it up, but it seems like there's still this disdain towards independent journalists that should not be there anymore. I mean, I thought that that had been broken through, but I think what Nick Shirley is showing is it hasn't. And they would rather spend a lot of time trying to discredit him than actually looking at the evidence that he's bringing forth, even if, 50% of it tends to check out. Look at what he's bringing out. Now, I did see that James O'Keefe came out with an expose in California where he got homeless people that were on the street and he filmed them and they were actually giving money to sign their names fraudulently. And Gavin Newsom actually, to his credit, said, hey, this is fraud. This needs to be looked into. So that's the kind of response that I would like for Nick Shirley. And he's not getting that. Even when he went to Congress and sat in front of Congress, it seemed like they only were like, oh, you put all of these, it's racist, is what they want to say. Oh, you put all of these poor, Somali people at risk. No, look at what he's bringing forth. He's actually undercovering fraud in a really good organic way.
My thought is that it doesn't surprise me because the fraud is widespread. And I know this because I understand human nature. And if you throw a lot of money in different buckets and you don't supervise it, I mean, not everybody, and not immediately. At some point, somebody said, "Do you know that every Tuesday there's a bucket of money over there and nobody ever looks in it?" Oh, well, we should take some of it. And then some will say, well, we can't just take it. Let's come up with creative ways. And that's what happens. So it's a very big problem, especially as Will was saying, we have all this debt. So you got a problem where, and it's going to be really hard to solve, even with people like Nick going around finding it and highlighting it, because it's so much of it. I mean, you would need 500 Nicks, and then you need another 150 years to find it all, because we got so many government entities at so many levels, and then money that goes into, um, you know, NGOs and other organizations that aren't governmental, but they're, government adjacent. They get the money, and a lot of them are doing, and then you got some of them are doing the thing that they're supposed to do. So it's not even fraud like a motel with a fake business, but they're overcharging, right? So then you got that factor. And then another one that few people talk about that's interesting is, because I consult with governments, and what I find is they have a problem like this. So look out for this. This is what makes me, as I think about what happens. So someone exposes this kind of fraud, and let's say you get the politicians to agree it's bad, we want to stop it. What I've seen happen in the past, which is, quite ironic, is they acknowledge it's a problem, they want to put a stop to the problem. But the system they put in place to stop this from ever happening again is either so large or so complex that it costs so much money. You step back and you think about it, you look at it, he's like, hell, it was easier when they just took the money, right? That guy took $5 million, and now we're spending $100 million to stop another guy from spending $5 million. One of these days I'll give you a couple of specific examples. But so then you have that on top of that. You have all this fraud at the federal, state, and local level. You have all these people who are doing what they got hired to do again, but overcharging for it. And then you have, situations that are like, well, we don't want anybody to do this, so let's have 75 people check this. And we created all these jobs of people making $150,000 a year to check that, to make sure no one steals the $5 million. So kudos for him. To him for doing that. I hope others do it. But then, like you say, he exposes it. Christy said this time, Newsom was kind enough to say is right, but most of the time you fight him and then you don't even do anything. So you expose it and nothing happens. So it's bad. We need the money. We need to stop the fraud. But the only way we're going to do it is to limit the government. Brooks, am I right?
Yes, absolutely. To tag on to your human nature aspect of the issue. Like every single one of these programs has been gamed, like been figured out. And it's a predominantly those that game this system are Democrats. Republicans do it, but they typically stick to the military industrial complex. But I think what we're going to find out over time is that strategically there's been the strategy of bringing people in to import votes, but also if we can set up a cottage industry, the Democrat machine has run into the same problem that the CIA solved by selling crack in Compton, right? How do we get money off the books? And, what we're finding in Minnesota looks like that's what's taken place. There is plenty to go around for the Somali community, but, the Democrat machine is going to get its cut. And that funds a lot of its efforts to do more. And I think we're going to see that widespread. I think we're going to find out that was a larger national strategy.
I had one more quick comment because the things that are happening in Minnesota, people have been reporting on this stuff for years. So Nick Shirley didn't automatically like just find this out of the air. I mean, this has been reported on, but it took the sensational way of new media to bring it to the public. It took a young person to bring it to the public and to capture our attention. And he single-handedly retired Tim Walz.
Yeah.
But that's the power of, I think, the new media because, this has been out, the fraudulent Minnesota stuff, but it took new media to actually bring it to the forefront and for us to all pay attention.
Yeah.
There's actually a really big point there quickly. Like when I wrote Hate Crime Hoax, one of my books, I mean, it's a good original book, I think, but like it became apparent really quickly that a lot of people knew that most of these racial claims, like on the left, even on the right, were just bullshit. Like if you search, there were all of these famous hoaxes. There were like short but real lists on like Reddit and 4chan of like hoaxes. This never happened. Watch out, gentlemen. Duke Lacrosse, like all of this kind of stuff. And the one person I could find who had tried to write this book before, shout to Laird Wilcox, was just kind of silenced in the pre-new media era. Like he would present his book, he's a researcher at, I believe, U Kansas, and people would just say no, just like, and no place for that here. And so the whole story, it was just under the radar. Cops knew about it. Edgy guys on the internet knew about it. You could find out about it in a half an hour, but it was totally prevented from being part of popular, what would you say, discourse. And I think what you need to break that, Nick Shirley did a great job, Twitter does a great job, but ideally what you'd have would be like Walter Cronkite. You'd have like reasonably reliable left and right wing media that would actually send journalists out to get stories. And like Cronkite's too far to the left for me, but I mean, the first Fox News guys, like you'd have media that instead of reporting and like writing 15 stories a day about polyamory, would have journalists walking around the hood and going to where Shirley went and asking, why in this cheater motel are there 15 businesses and a Cybertruck? That's kind of what you're supposed to do as a reporter. Like you put on your gumshoes and you go out and look for stories. And I feel like there aren't a lot of people doing that.
That's true.
Boom.
All right, it's time. We got time for, I think, one more, our last shot. Christy Kelly, you pick them. Candace Owens or Zohran Mamdani.
Oh, we got to go Mamdani.
So he's coming up on his 100 days here in the next couple of weeks, and he came in like Trump came in, rocking and rolling, signing executive orders, firing people, hiring people, moving. I don't know how much you've all seen. Obviously, you've probably seen the new Office of LGBTQ, whatever, right? You saw that thing, or he created this new office and installed the first trans person to run it. It's got some community safety office that he wants to start. So he's starting a bunch of different offices. So it's weird because you notice that he came in, blamed Eric Adams, but he's like $5 billion in debt, has a deficit, but then he has all this new money he wants to spend. So just let me recap you some of the stuff you may have seen in national news, but recap some of the things he's done. He basically tried to blackmail the business people and the governor to say raise taxes on the rich. She's like, I'm not raising taxes. I ran saying I'm not raising taxes. I'm not going to do it. Well, if you don't raise the tax on the rich, I'm gonna have to raise the taxes on everybody else. And all the black people all started protesting. I don't know if you saw that about 3 weeks ago. They were all like, get your hands off my taxes or whatever. It's funny, all the black people from the Bronx and Queens or whatever. So there's that. So he wants to raise taxes on the rich, but if I can't, I will raise tax on everybody else. He got the LGBTQ office. He's got the so he ran on revamping the 911 process. So his first step is to start this new office, another new office. So he wants to divert things to that office from the police. So the police aren't handling all the 911 calls, domestic, all that kind of stuff. He's at a crossroads with homeless. He doesn't know what to do there. We got really cold here, and he doesn't want to force. He's the type that doesn't want to force. He's the opposite of me. Doesn't want to force the homeless off the street. I want to force the homeless off the street. Don't mind helping them, but you can't sleep on the street. Can't sleep on the trains. Can't piss on the trains. Can't do all this stuff. And he doesn't want to force them in. So he's like, "What do we do? If it's too cold, we got to just let them stay out there." So some people are upset about that. So now he's trying to find new housing. His newest one was, I don't know if I mentioned this one to y'all. He wants to make it easier, cut the red tape to create a ancillary dwelling unit, an ADU. So that's like converting your basement or your attic into rental space. But most of the people do that to bring family in. He's talking about do that, but he's trying to do that to close the gap of all the shortage of housing because we don't have a lot of housing here. And he's that community safety thing he wanted to do to take place of the 911 was $1 billion. And then two last things. He wants to lower the speed limit, which has already freaked me out when I moved here. That is 25 because everywhere else I lived it was 30. So he wants to lower it to 20 everywhere, right? Because these people hate cars, they don't really want you to drive anyway. So you're charging me $9 to come to the city in congestion pricing, but then I can only drive at a snail's pace because you're making the speed limit so low. But at the same time, he wants to lower the punishment for the bikers. So we have these rabid e-bikers because it's a big city, millions of people ordering food. So they e-bike all over the city. They don't stop at lights. They ride on the sidewalk. It's against the law. They run people over. And so he wants to stop charging them because it's unfair to charge them for running people over and all that stuff. We charge them criminally. He's like, no, just give them a ticket just like the drivers. But they're hitting little old ladies on the sidewalk. People don't like that one. And he wants universal health care. So the way he's doing is backdooring. We have kindergarten, and then we had pre-K, universal pre-K. So any 4-year-old can go to pre-K. Then what's his name? De Blasio made 3K, introduced 3K, which started last year. He introduced it, signed it into law. It didn't start to last year, and now they're starting 2K. I wrote in my book before that we need to take away all these other welfare programs and try to find to help people at the beginning so they don't need help later. I don't really have a problem helping people. I have a problem with the government being the new parent, right? So in this sense, it's not like I'm giving you a voucher, you can go to daycare. You got to send your little kid to the government school so we can indoctrinate them at 18 months instead of 4 years. We get more time to break them. Thoughts on all things Mamdani?
Well, you have to build a bank before you can rob it. And New York City is the bank. And they have reached the point in history where, it's time for it to be looted. And, I want to see that wealth and industry move to a new home. Sorry, Charles, you'll do well in Nashville or Miami or Austin or wherever you land after you find refugee status. But, this reminds me of Hochul recently said, I mean, this was just the other day, if you recall in 2022, she said to Republicans, jump on a bus and head down to Florida. You don't represent us and you're not New Yorkers. And then recently, in another interview, she said maybe the first step is to go down to Palm Beach and see who we can bring back because our tax base has been eroded. And it's like,
Oops.
you keep asking for it and you get it. And, that's where we are. So
Burn it all down. Will, you
well,
say burn it all
yeah, I
down?
mean, New York has been a huge store of value, and the rats have made it into the corn crib, and that's just what happens when people get fat and soft.
Yeah, I agree with the last line. I mean, I think that politics is completely amoral. I think that there are going to be a lot of results for electing Mamdani. I can't believe how bad a job of Oppo research Cuomo's team did. I mean, if you look at his wife, like we found out today that her social media includes, excuse the language, but like describing gay people as faggots, but also it's like the whole spectrum where she's referring to her friends as like my niggas. It's just
She did it all.
yeah, but it's like
She offended
every
everybody.
kind of awkward. Like she's talking like hip hop trash. She's talking explicitly about sex. She hates gay people. She denies rape on 7 October, just like across the board. And
The
like
flight,
to
but
miss
none of
that,
that tops the flight. She posted a thing about the first woman hijacker who took the cockpit and say, what was the line she put in it? Something about if the results work, I'm okay with what it takes to get there, or something crazy like
yeah,
that.
but she did that a couple times. Like she posted a picture of like some female suicide bomber, and she was like, "He me." Like you can see it on Twitter. Like it's like the worst imaginable like rich prep school but Muslim party girl. Like it just goes on and on. And like no one from Cuomo's team maybe thought he was being gentlemanly, maybe thought he had enough problems with women, but like no one apparently scrubbed any of that content, looked at it, used Walrus or whatever. Anyway, but I think that people in New York are now going to deal with the consequences of having Mamdani in power. I think that in reality, though, Mamdani is probably going to realize that he's going to damage the city. He's not going to be good for the city. As a Chicagoan, and as again, like Brooks said, I live in Louisville right now. That there are a lot of secondary high quality cities, Nashville, that are going to benefit Miami from people fleeing New York. Chicago, which is almost as obnoxious as New York, is kind of making fun of this right now. Like a Chicago architect proposed that we build an exact model of the World Trade Center two towers, which even I think is stupid and offensive, but like use it to host several large Chicago companies and call it the Midwest something or other. You can find this on social media as well. So a lot of people are expecting New York to kind of collapse. Anyway, getting to the point, I don't really think that's going to happen. I think that there are going to be enough entrenched power bases in a city like that, just like there would be in Tokyo or Jakarta, or for that matter, Chicago, that someone with Mamdani's level of skill isn't going to be able to budge most of them. Like a lot of the things Mamdani wants, every time I've looked at one of them in depth, and Charles, you were on the school board in New York City, like they all seem to involve these groups of smart, sophisticated people that aren't going to do the thing. Like even something as simple as free buses. Like there's a well-known and respected transit commission in NYC that I know about as someone from another big city that the governor doesn't tangle with. So like, what are the odds that he gets this fleet of short buses that cost no money? I mean, virtually nothing. As a leader at a level like that, governor, big city mayor, president, you usually get 2 to 3 accomplishments. And it's up to you to decide what those are going to be. What are the big things you're going to focus on? That's one of the things I keep in mind about leadership. I don't think Mamdani even knows what he wants for his. So I think he'll make a lot of noise and issue proclamations about Eid in the city and so on. I don't know how much he's actually going to do. That's my take.
Yeah, I wonder when the bromance is going to end with him and Trump. Now, Trump's a little busy right now, but after this is over, I wonder when Trump is going to start to actually like hit him rather than like the bromance. So, Charles, you're in New York, so you know the ins and outs of all the policies, but you missed the most spectacular thing.
Oh
It's
God.
I think last week when he went on an interview and he actually started crying because of the death threats that he's getting. What did you expect? You have private security. It's going to be a high risk job. I'm sure at Brooks, it's probably coming if you haven't got it yet, but I know for sure the three of us have gotten some kind of threat. I know I have. I know Will definitely has gotten threats.
Everyone loves me, Christy.
It's coming. What how are you on an interview crying because of death threats? I think he's cracking. I don't think it was about the death threats. I think the pressure is already getting to him and he's showing major cracks. The
I think
other thing he came
Bro's a sociopath. I know like 5 men that can cry at will.
right? The other
Seriously,
thing he
like
came out
one of them's a Latin King gang shooter. Like none of them are good people. Like
Only
I think like
five? You only know
when you
five
ask
men that
like
can cry?
it might be 3 right now, but that's only because one of them is dead. But like, and this is totally true. Like,
That might make it hard for him to cry.
yeah, well, I mean, where he is now, no one knows. We've talked about religion, but like, so the whole point is, although never speak ill of the dead, they were all good and brave people in their way. But so the point about this, though, like when you ask, like, how can Trump and Mamdani get along? Because
It's
they're
fake.
predatory male leaders. Like they enjoy backslapping each other and hitting each other in the ass with towels or the equivalent and making fun of
Oh,
each
you
other.
racist jerk. Oh, you stupid
They're
But
mother.
a
as he
fucking
destroys the
terrorist.
city,
You
he
I mean,
Trump
terrorist.
everyone who's been in a locker room knows what this is. That's how it works. And I think a lot of people don't grasp this. Mamdani, 90% of what he says isn't sincere. Gavin Newsom's a similar guy. You can watch him and Ben Shapiro shooting the shit. Like, I'm sure he believes that universal health care is better than not. Does he actually shake with passion when he thinks about trans kids? No, he's a 6'4" baseball player from the Valley. It's all bullshit. And when you start from that baseline, I think a lot of this makes a little more sense. So that's my take there.
But as he destroys the city, Trump loves New York. He's a New Yorker
You
at
all
heart.
not gonna give the guy a chance. He's just gonna destroy the city.
No,
There's
yeah,
no way he'll be a
he's gonna
great.
just
He'll go
no.
down as the best mayor.
Human Godzilla.
He's gonna destroy the city, and Trump is gonna turn on him. But like, mark this tape. Mark this tape, Brooks. Trump's gonna turn on
Well,
him.
but look at how Trump treats Kim Jong Un and Xi and Putin. Like he treats all of those types that way publicly, but like behind the scenes, he is, an opponent in some regards. He's always looking to make a deal. But I don't take Trump's what would you say? Uh,
Admiration.
oh well, his camera side manner, so to speak, his camera front
On
manner
homie.
as his actual orientation with regard to these people.
Yeah, the first one was hilarious though. When the reporter asked Mamdani, do you said a lot of things on the campaign trail. You even called him a fascist and a horrible person. Do you still think that way? Trump's like, just say yes, it's easier. I'm cool with it. Just say yes. It's like I don't care, right? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm holding out hope that
Are you holding out for
I
a hero?
look, I'm holding out for hope. Look, no, I'm thinking about what you said. What I was going to say was I'm holding out hope that I can get out of here as soon as
Where are you going, Charles?
no, I mean, it's mostly bad, I will say, but I think you're wrong, Christy. I think not long term, but right now you're wrong because you're like he's cracking. I think I see the local New Yorkers who voted for him. I mean, it's like Trump in the early days. It's really they're really similar if you think about it. You know how earlier in the show we talked about
Mm.
the war, and at some point, Will said at some point he will lose some of his people, but there's a percentage that just like him, and he can do the opposite of what he ran on. They'd be like, "Well, if he did, it must be for a good reason. I trust him, right?" That's where Mamdani is. That New York is just like, I love him. Look, I mean, he'll just come on TV and say, "I think today it's going to be 50 degrees." That's my mayor right there. No other mayor could have been that good. What he just said the weather. Shut up, right? They're true believers that they cannot, they still, basking in the glow. They can't believe a socialist won. So they're just like, I don't care what he does that I don't like. The fact that a socialist had a chance is good and they're happy. So I don't know. I mean, his comments on the terrorist attack, he didn't want to call it a terrorist attack. He called the attacks on the police a snowball fight, when I believe a snowball fight is two sides throwing snowballs at each other. So if one side's not throwing a snowball, it's not a snowball fight. The police officer, they got shot, and then he goes to the hospital to visit the person that the policeman shot, and not the police officer. All those things rub most New Yorkers the wrong way. Not the Mamdani people. They don't care. If they get their universal health care and tax on the rich, and even if they don't get the tax on the rich, if he keeps saying the things that they like landlords are evil. Yay, we like that. It doesn't mean anything's gonna happen. We like that. So as long as that happens, a lot of the people won't, we'll give them a pass on any missteps. The question is, how about what's really going to be the pay the price and pinpoint what happens with his term is what happens from a crime standpoint. Like he dodged the bullet. He was smart to keep his police superintendent on, but at some point, we all know he hates police. So at some point, Summer comes up, it's hot outside. There's going to be a police shooting, or there's going to be a riot, or there's going to be something, and he's going to be on the wrong side. And that is when he's going to start losing people. But until then, I'm just going to sit here, Brooks, and I'm just going to enjoy the ride.
That's why he's got to get
Fair
them
enough.
at 18 months instead of 4 years.
Or no months. But yeah, I just thought it's interesting to watch the flurry of things that he talks about. I mean, like here, it's on a commercial. Everything he has a press conference for. Everything. I'm just like, shut up. I don't want to hear anybody that much. But we'll see. But he is true to his campaign. At least he's trying to do all the things he says. So you can't call him a hypocrite. He's a communist and an anti-Semite. He is trying to cover that part. He says some things, but then this attack is bad. We gotta love everybody, but he doesn't mean it. But we'll see. So what we got on the docket coming up, Will, as we sign off here? How do we do
Right.
our final thoughts when we talked about 19 things? What do you want to do? How do we want to close?
Well, we can do the brief words of wisdom as usual. The next guy we've got coming up is Stephen Horn for Cut the Bull fans. So we're going to talk about Don Lemon, journalists in risky situations. That may be a Nick Shirley lead-in. Actually, he was at the Capitol on January 6th. He's done a couple other things like that. So what should the role of the man with the camera be? But if we are doing words of wisdom, what would I take about out of all this? There's something I say pretty frequently. There's a lot of in a society where we have nearly as many words for bullshit as Eskimos did for snow. I would remain very focused on the idea of common sense. So when we talk about the Nick Shirley thing, for example, there's going to be a backlash to him going to this motel full of these quote unquote hospice businesses where people are going to say, well, hospices treat people at home. How do you know those aren't legitimate businesses? And the answer is going to be because the voice of my preferred spiritual being inside my head, which tells me that it's unusual to have 10 Cybertrucks sitting in front of an empty motel room, tells me they're not. And 9 times out of 10, that voice is going to be more legitimate, the soft word you hear in the night, than nonsense you hear from motivated partisans out in the world competing with you. So keep that in mind. And with that, Charles Love, what do you think?
I think I would end by just saying a lot of these topics kind of tie together in the sense that the government is not our friend. It's too big, has too much power. People don't pay attention, and we just let them, run rampant. So, don't know what the solution is. I mean, the solution is in educated populace. We ain't getting that. So. I don't know what the solution is, but I mean, it's definitely becoming a bigger issue every day.
All right. Well, we have identified the problem. And yeah, I mean, Brooks has done some pretty well-known presentations in our region at major events on that. I mean, like you talk about left, you talk about right. A big issue is the lack of freedom. I mean, there's a camera on every street corner now. But Brooks Crenshaw, what do you think?
But did we cover Iran while I was having technical difficulties?
Yeah, you should have been. If we had to start, it was the big topic. So go.
Yeah, I want to touch on that for my final. The old saying goes, "The first casualty of war is the truth." And here we are in the world of AI and not knowing what's happening. I tend to think that the attack posture that Iran has taken looks like desperation. It looks like death throes. And I think that's good. However, I'm not, as somebody who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, I'm not looking for that 20-year war and would not tolerate a boots on the ground endeavor. That's where Trump would lose me. That said, with Joe Kent's resignation, I'm conflicted on that. I don't know Joe, but I know a lot of people that do. And so I am very reserved with my judgment on a guy like that. I don't immediately take the attack route with a guy like that because of what his competence and capability and character across that career likely means. If we find out that he was involved in some leaks and was under investigation, fair enough. Like I can go either way with him, but I tend to hold a more reserved posture for somebody like that. But we'll see. The Straits of Hormuz is going to be a big deal, but it's largely, I mean, the Strait of Hormuz is a big opportunity for Trump's opponents to get him. Lloyd's of London pulled all the insurance on all of the tankers going through the strait, and that created a panic. So you're seeing non-Iranian actors that are complicating that Straits of Hormuz, and it looks like political, what would you say, political posturing or political opportunism, because there's a desperation to prevent Trump from kind of restructuring this global order that he's attempting to, what would you say, dismantle. The Iranian lever, which, Iran's presence has been for the majority of my life, a convenient war factory, in the same way that North Korea is China's. It is the hub of conflict in the Middle East, and it is a convenient thing to have when you want conflict in the Middle East. So if taking out Iran ends the forever war model, I'm all for that. Otherwise, I'm not looking for boots on the ground, but there has to be a resolution here in terms of beating them in a final manner.
Since you weren't here, the one last thing that I want to say, that because we didn't mention it when we talked about it before, was, I'm sure you all saw, but the NATO Secretary General came out and said that this is what we all of the allies agreed, was that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and we got to open the strait. So I don't know where that leaves. France is still saying, no, not our problem, blah, blah, blah. But that was a big thing for him to say.
Well, I think it's interesting that Trump is inviting China to help out with that, because it's like basically, hey, 70% of Iranian oil goes to China. Help yourself here. That's an interesting play, because you've basically forced. But if China does cooperate, you force China to cooperate in order to get its own oil, which is between Venezuela and Iran is a major source of energy for the Chinese.
Right.
Fair enough. All right. And Christy Kelly, what do you think? Last word of wisdom.
Yeah, so I think sticking with Iran, Dems still continue to message better. The thing that has cut through is that them saying this is a war of choice. And I don't think the Republicans have met that with any good answer, you know? And so that's going to be a problem. I think one thing that we tend to do, and we kind of said it here, we've lost 14. My niece is a pilot and in the Air Force, and she doesn't tell us when she's on conflict, but she, was part when they went back and got those out of Afghanistan. She was part of that mission. And so she doesn't tell my brother until after it's over, but we assume that she probably is over there. So I'm very sensitive to this. If we've lost one in a war of choice, it's a problem for me. The other thing is my daughter is about a year out from enlisting into the military. And so I'm like, ooh, do I talk her off of that ledge or not? I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with if we do send troops in the ground, I said this earlier, that's where I get off. I mean, I'm already not a big fan of the timing. Yeah, but I think we have to be careful with our language on this one.
All right. Reality is what it is, but words can help define it. So, Christy Kelly, last word of wisdom, and a wise one. All right. For Cut the Bull overall, Charles Love running us through some great topics today. Pull it out.
To say, Patriot J, I'm saving the day. Patriot J, I'm saving the day from you commies who lame. No, you can't fuck with me. I got a country to say. God bless the US of A. Land of the free and a home of the brave. God get all of the praise. I got a country to say, cause I'm Patriot J and I'm saving the day.